Hello all, we've now arrived at our final presentation of Plant Pure Communities webinar, Grow and Engage Your Pod, Amplify Your Reach, and Change the World. My name is Bill Daniels and I'm a member of the PAC Events Subcommittee that has organized today's event. Amy, Maya, and Rebecca Tassitano will now be presenting 5 steps to becoming an awesome podcast guest. You already know Amy and Maya from earlier presentations. Let me introduce you to Rebecca, who will be joining Amy in a pre-recorded video. Amy Tassitano helps organizations and people prepare for professional events with the company she founded, PKA Solves. As a consultant of Plant Pure Communities, Rebecca optimizes their Salesforce CRM technology to enable them to document all the moving parts of the pod network. Rebecca holds a BA in communication and a BA in psychology and is a trained competitive speaker and former president of Toastmasters. I now present to you Amy Tassitano, Maya Acosta, and Rebecca Tassitano.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. This is really exciting because Amy and we've been on each other's podcasts. And I've enjoyed both ways. So when Amy came on my podcast, she did a presentation and to share her story. So she did like a slideshow and that was a lot of fun. And when she invited me over, she had me do a food demo, which is her podcast is very interactive and fun and dynamic and live, which always makes me nervous. So
yeah, I really enjoy collaborating with you, Maya, and you just have so much to offer. And if you haven't gotten a chance to watch Maya's cooking, because she's just so multi-talented, she cooks and she cooks too. And she's going to be coming back on my podcast to tell them what you're going to cook.
Oh yeah. So so the first time I did a hearts of palm ceviche, and this time I'm coming on the show to prepare another kind of Mexican or Latin staple, which are nopales, which is the cactus, the prickly pear cactus. You know that one.
Nopales.
Nopales. And you see it everywhere in the desert. So.
I run across it oftentimes shopping and I go, I really need to add more plants, but what do I do with this? So I am so excited for you to share that.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share it too. So I'm going to start with my presentation because it's pretty short. It's 12 minutes and I'll go over the five steps to being a great podcast guest. And then Amy's going to follow with a wonderful interview of her daughter, Rebecca, and the importance of being on StreamYard. Wonderful. So I'm going to share my screen. And the first thing I'm going to share my screen, you heard us say that on the Trello board. And by the way, please leave in the chat comments about whether you still need to learn how to access the Trello board, because that's where we're putting resources. So in the Trello board, under the tab for resources, we've put together some free guides, and I just kind of want to show you mine real quick before I do the presentation. It's something that I've put together in the past for anyone who wants to learn about my podcast or who wants to come on my podcast and just learn the history of it. So this is what you'll get. It's free in the under the resources. And it includes a little history about my podcast. I went through a change. I just rebranded early this year to the name Healthy Lifestyle Solutions. But I also include 10 benefits of being on a podcast, which is what Amy and I will speak to you about. So you learn about that. You get to learn a little bit about where I have listeners, because podcasting gives you a larger platform. People listen all over. I'm in a top group in Ireland, and I don't know why people in Ireland listen to my podcast. You just never know. So here's some more information of how to be a great guest. It's sort of like what I'll cover today, but you can have this and just, save it to your desktop and just visit it from time to time. We will also talk about in my presentation how to create a media kit, also known as a one-pager. This is just a simple way to put the basic stuff, the most important things about yourself on a one-pager to then hand over to a future podcast host. So this is the way you pitch yourself to hosts, because we all get hit up all the time by people wanting to come on the show. So we have to be very selective and aligned with the message. And then I share how you can promote your podcast. So I just wanted to share that with you all to let you know that it's in the Trello board under resources. So you're interested in guesting on podcasts and you're ready to figure out how you can be an awesome guest. Okay, I'll back up. Perhaps you're not ready or interested, or perhaps you're not even aware of the tremendous benefits of appearing on other podcast shows. No worries. In this session, I'm going to cover 5 ways that you can be an awesome podcast guest. Hi, I'm Maya Acosta. I'm a pod leader here in the Dallas area, but I'm also a producer and the host of the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast. I basically oversee the entire production of my show, everything from scheduling to researching my guests to then editing all the content, both for audio and video, and also marketing and promoting my content. That's a lot of work. And I have also interviewed a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I've now interviewed over 200 people for my podcast. So today I'm going to offer you a few tips that I learned along the way so that I can help you shine as a guest on other podcast shows. And so also you can share your message to a broader audience. So let's go over the class schedule. Make sure that you have a paper and pen to jot down any ideas that pop up as we go through the steps of being a great guest. So we are going to discuss, number 1, know your story. Number 2, define your goals. Number 3, identify your audience. Number 4, prepare a winning pitch. Number 5, create a one-pager. I will also have additional bonus materials that you can download at the end of the day. So let's start with the first tip. Number 1, know your story. There are many ways that you can share your story, and it really depends on the audience that you're speaking to. Since you are a pod leader, you follow a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, and you support others to do the same. So we are going to stick with this theme. A podcast host will be curious about how you came to this lifestyle. I often ask others, was it a movie, a book that you read, or a specific person that told you about this lifestyle? Have you or someone you love battled with health conditions and then seen improvements as a result of eating this way? I also ask, what skills and expertise did you bring to your role as a pod leader? What activities take place in your pod? And can you share what life was like during the pandemic and how you navigated all those limitations that we've had? More interesting questions may be about things that you've accomplished together as a pod. Do you have memorable moments? What inspires you to lead your group? What is the most rewarding thing that you find about being a pod leader? I'll give you a few minutes to jot down anything that comes to mind. Okay, number 2, let's identify your goals. And what I mean by this is, what are your intentions in sharing your story with others? What do you hope to accomplish? Perhaps your goal is to inspire or motivate others to take back their health. Perhaps your goal is to provide hope to others who are suffering. Maybe you want to help educate others about how problems can develop as a result of consuming animal-based foods, or you might want to talk about animal cruelty. Finally, you may want to help educate the public about how going vegan is the best thing that we can do for our planet. Are you beginning to see how much you can actually share and how you can share it? So you have a story or a message to share and you know what your intentions are. Now you have to find an audience who will listen. The great thing about going on someone else's podcast is that they already have an established audience. There is nothing that you need to do but to show up and share your story. Number 3, know the audience. Before reaching out randomly to podcasters and asking them to invite you on their show, you need to know what they are about. You can consider reaching out to podcast hosts who talk about health issues, surviving cancer, diabetes, and things like that. As a matter of fact, I was recently invited on the Millennial Housewife podcast. This is a young mother married with children who works at home, and she invites guests to come on the show and share tips for her young audience, many of who are also housewives. Now, Jasmine asked me to share why I'm passionate about helping others live healthier lives. She asked me to suggest one thing that her listeners could implement into their daily routines that could lead to a healthier life. She asked if I had stress relieving tips about my favorite form of self care. And this was an opportunity for me to discuss the role that diet plays in our overall health and wellness. Jasmine is not plant based. Her show is not about nutrition, but she is familiar with my podcast and my topics and found that my content is of value to her listeners. All right, number 4, the winning pitch. Now that you've studied your story, defined your goals, and figured out an audience that will work for you, it's time to put together a winning pitch that you can present to a potential host. Ask yourself, what do you have to offer their audience? First of all, are you a match for their show? You definitely do not want to get on a show that promotes a keto diet or promotes hunting animals, for example. What problem can you solve, and how are you an expert that can offer solutions? So let's look at this example. I often say to list 3 to 5 problems that you know people face when it comes to adopting a plant-based diet. Here are 3 of those examples. Number 1, people say that it's too expensive to eat healthy. Number 2, people say that they do not have time to cook healthy meals. And number 3, people do not know what they are supposed to eat. So let's look at problem 1. People say that it's too expensive to eat healthy. So how can you solve that problem? Do you have 3 ways that you can help people eat a healthy diet without spending a lot of money? Let's look at my next example. Here's the solution. So I teach people how to incorporate more healthy plant-based foods into their diet without spending a lot of money. And how do I do that? Well, here's my first solution. I suggest that they cook at home rather than eat at restaurants. Number 2, I suggest that they shop at ethnic grocery stores where the cost of groceries is a little less, especially the produce. And I also recommend that they buy in bulk. And number 3, I say keep staples at home, such as beans and rice, so that you're always meal planning and preparing for the future. So let's go to this slide. Ask yourself again, what do you have to offer? And how are you an expert? Well, perhaps you completed the eCornell Plant-Based Nutrition certification. You really invested some time into that program. You need to put it down in your one-pager. What have you done the Ruby Culinary course? I've also done the Blue Zones Staying Alive course. What if you offer cooking demos or offer grocery store tours? These are things that you need to jot down so that the host knows that you're qualified. I'll give you a few minutes to jot down anything that comes to mind. All right, we're almost done, friends. Number 5, create a one-pager on Canva. And I say Canva because there are so many templates that you can play around with. But this is where you get to take those best points that we've already spoken about and highlight them in a one page that will be emailed to a potential host. Have a flattering photo of yourself. And did you know that if you don't have a professional photographer, you can always use your iPhone, go into Instagram, grab a filter that you can use there and take a selfie of yourself. Even put it on a stand and take a selfie of yourself. Now, the reason that you want a photo that where the background can be removed and you can still look flattering, you still want your shoulders in the photo, it's because it may be used on an audiogram, which is a soundbite of the interview. Or there might be a small card where they include a quote, something that you said in the interview. And also it'll be used as a thumbnail if they use the YouTube video version of it. But you want a photo that they can play around with for different layouts as well. So we're looking at my bio to give you an example. You want to provide a short bio. No one wants to read a resume on the podcast. We want just to the point, a short bio to entice people about who you are. So here you see an example. Maya is a health and wellness educator and host of the Healthy Lifestyle Solutions podcast. Her passion is to help educate people on how to take control of their health by making healthy lifestyle choices. That means that I can talk about the pillars of lifestyle medicine, which include plant-based nutrition. And I also mentioned that I'm a member of various organizations. Here's where I highlight what I will be talking about on a show, and the host can decide which of these they want me to address. So I'll talk about the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, the benefits, and how people can make healthier lifestyle choices. I can talk about the longest lived people on the planet that live in the blue zones. I can talk about how I survived mercury poisoning because I ate a lot of fish and seafood and how I went plant-based. And I can also talk about going plant-based on a budget. Now, my guests may not even know what being plant based means or what lifestyle medicine is. So I have to give them some questions that they can use to get me started on the conversation. Things like, tell us why you became plant based. How did you realize that you had mercury poisoning? How do you help others take control of their health? Now, this is where I get to talk about the work that I do as a pod leader and in the community on my podcast. What are the pillars of lifestyle medicine? And is eating plant-based expensive? I can also talk about a book if I had a book or a program or a podcast. This is where I just get to shine as a guest. Also, in that one pager, we want to add links to other appearances that we've made on other podcast shows because if a host has time, they might want to check out your style and hear what you're like as an interviewee. Also, you want to provide your contact information so that they can reach out to you. All right. So let's say that you've done all the steps and now you have a completed one pager. We call them one pagers, but it's like a short bio page, and you are ready to contact podcast hosts. Here are 3 examples that you can download under the resource page. 3 different ways that we put together our one-page bio to share with our podcast hosts. You can see that we include a short bio, questions that can be asked, topics that we talk about, our social media, our website, and things like that. And in conclusion, your story is valuable. Get comfortable sharing it. Create your one-pager and make sure that you reach out to at least 5 podcasters. I would love for you to follow me and stay in touch and tell me how you're doing. If you have any questions about any of these steps, you can reach out to me. I have a YouTube channel, a website, healthylifestylesolutions.org. I'm on about 15 different podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Under our resource page, I'm offering you 2 additional resources free as a love offering to you to help support you as you get on to other podcasts. So in case I haven't convinced you that you need to go on podcast shows, I have a PDF that's 10 benefits of being a podcast guest. You can download that and it'll tell you about the 10 benefits of being a guest. And also there's a bonus PDF with bonus tips and questions to get you prepping and practicing how to tell your story. All right, here's additional contact information, my email, my website, and I'm always available on Instagram. So friends, I hope that this was valuable to you. I can't wait to hear you on a podcast. And thank you for being part of this class. And I'm going to hold off on questions. Amy, if you'd like to come on board now.
Greetings, everyone. Like I told you earlier in our presentations, that's my opening with panache, and that's what I do on my podcast. I have a podcast called Be Green with Amy, and I have it on the usual podcast platforms like Apple and so forth. But I also do YouTube videos and Facebook videos, and they're usually live. And as a podcaster, I have had the pleasure of interviewing hundreds of plant-based people, including physicians, doctors, dietitians, Maya, people with stories of healing, and pod leaders too. So if you're curious about becoming a podcaster, I would like you to join me as I interview Rebecca from PKA Solves. And what she does is she helps you to shine online every time. Now, disclaimer here, Rebecca is my daughter, and I'm very proud that she has helped me become a podcaster. And this is one of the many things that she does for her business. She also consults with PPC. So she has a lot to offer, especially if you're a not-for-profit. So as a mom, I have to brag a little bit about that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen so that I can begin this video, and I hope that you guys can hear it and let me know how, if you can. We'll share it now.
And we're live with Be Green with Amy.
Greetings, PPC. I'm Amy, and I'm with Be Green with Amy. And today we're going to be talking about hosting a podcast. Now, many people use Zoom, but today I'm here with Rebecca from PKA Solves to explore podcasting with StreamYard. I use StreamYard on my Be Green with Amy podcast, and Rebecca gave me lots of support in creating my episodes when I began podcasting. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, this is so nice to have you on because as I was telling everybody who's watching, I have been doing this streaming for a while now, but you are the one that got me started. You are the one that helped me set everything up and taught me how to use StreamYard and how to be a podcaster. And you gave me so much support. So I thought, who better to have on this presentation than you to help walk us through and unpack all of this?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. StreamYard allows you to do so much as a podcaster or as a live streamer, and it makes it so easy to have a very professional feel to your broadcast and opens up so many possibilities. So I could definitely see this being useful for any pod leaders that are interested in having a presence on Facebook or on YouTube or even on LinkedIn, wherever you are normally posting events or posting links. You can have this type of broadcast on that platform, and you can either stream it live or pre-recorded with StreamYard.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing that you mentioned because some people think, uh-oh, I don't want to go live. That makes me too nervous. And you can just record, but it looks like you're live and it looks just like this, like what we're doing now. And then later, even if you wanted to edit it because you wanted to really take some things out that maybe you were new and you weren't sure, you could always do some editing too. And then you could actually download, right, this recording?
Yes, you
right?
can download this recording and you can use it for a podcast, or you can use it for just a few clips for a website or for a YouTube channel. There's so much that you can do, but StreamYard allows you to have these conversations with a guest or with several guests and to brand the live stream so that it looks like the colors that you wanted and the name of your show and all of those different things that we helped you get set up with at the very beginning.
Yeah, if you look here, you helped me set up this really cool background and the overlay that has my name on it and so many things here. And these are my brand colors. Now, I mean, pink may not be everybody's color, so it could be all kinds of ways that you would set something like this up, and it wouldn't have to be so sparkly and fun like mine.
But that's who you are, so it really shines through for you. But right, these vegetables probably apply to anybody that's watching.
I think so. I think one question that people might have, and we can showcase one of the things that StreamYard does right here. One question people might have would be, do you have to pay for StreamYard? And you're going to answer that question and then talk about how we got that question up.
Sure. Well, I'll start with how we got this question up. StreamYard allows you to write a little blurb or and it's called a banner. And so you can write a question like this, and then you can click one button, and then it'll pop up down here on your screen. Another thing that StreamYard allows you to do is to have live comments from your viewers. So if your viewers are watching on YouTube and Facebook, for instance, anyone on YouTube can just type into YouTube or type into Facebook their comment, just like they would comment normally, and you have the option of putting it here on the screen. So that's really cool. But to go back into your question about, do you have to pay for StreamYard? If you want a more professional feel, you have to pay for StreamYard. But StreamYard is also free. So if you want to stream for free, they'll have the StreamYard logo up in the corner. But since you, Amy, pay for StreamYard, that logo isn't showing up in the corner for us. So that's really nice because you could use it for a few episodes and kind of test it out and see if this is something that you want to invest in. I think it's only $20 a month, which is for the value that it provides. I think that's pretty cheap. But if you choose to go free, you can go free as long as you want, but you need to have their branding. So there's like a logo of a duck that will show up in the corner that says something about StreamYard.
Right. And that's the fun thing about this is because I can put these questions up And if I get a comment, I can also do that as well and display it. And in the beginning, I was a little nervous about podcasting, and especially since I decided to go live, you encouraged me to do that. And to do that and to click on all the things at the same time, it made me a little bit nervous. So you walked me through that, and you actually engineered my show for some of the beginning episodes where you were clicking on the questions. But as a host, I can click on the questions now, and which is great because I can decide which questions apply to what part of the broadcast as they come along.
Yeah, a lot of people that talk to me about live streaming, first of all, like you said, I helped you in the beginning click all of the buttons so you could just focus on interviewing your guest. Now you're an expert, so you can interview and click all the buttons. So kudos to you. But sometimes it takes that like extra person tag teaming just to make you feel more comfortable for the first few episodes. Yeah.
Okay, so we were going to ask about if you could see, that was one of the questions, if you could see comments from both Facebook and YouTube, and you did say that, yes. And the reason why I brought that question up, because we did already talk about it, but there's a feature on StreamYard when you get these comments that come in live that I wanted you to talk about, because I've noticed that I watch some people on YouTube or Facebook, and they're doing these live streams, and they're like, oh, I got a comment. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's gone. I'm sorry. The comments are just going through the feed so quickly. So tell me why StreamYard is a benefit as far as that feature, what they have.
The great thing about StreamYard is that it collects all of the comments that you're getting across all of the platforms. So just to reiterate or make it very clear, when you choose to use StreamYard, you can go live or pre-recorded to multiple platforms at the same time. So if you were just doing Facebook Live, you would only be on Facebook. If you were just doing YouTube Live, you would only be on YouTube. But with StreamYard, you can connect any social media platform that you would like, pretty much other than Instagram, and you can go live to all of those platforms at the same time, or you can push your pre-recorded content out to all those platforms at the same time. And it also collects all of the comments from all of those different platforms and brings them into one easy feed on the side. So you can look through all of the comments that come in from all of the different platforms, and you can choose whether to display them or not. You click on them and they display. A lot of times people ask me the question, but what if I get somebody commenting something that I don't like? There's also the option to block somebody, to kick them out of the room, or to not show their comment at all. In fact, the comments don't display automatically. You have to click on them in order to get them to display. So in this way, you can kind of pick and choose which comments you want to answer and in what order.
Yeah, and I can take my mouse and scroll up and down through the comments so that if this is a live feed, but I'm not going to lose them and not be able to find it. And then StreamYard recently added a feature where you could actually put a star on a comment that only you would see as the presenter, and it would save it in a different tab so that if you see a comment, right? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and so if you see a comment that you want to save, you can save it somewhere different so that you can make sure to have your comments available. Even if you've got so many comments that they're just flying by, you can star them so that you can save them and display them later.
Right, to just save the ones that you think are going to be valuable as far as that goes. Okay, so I have so many questions that I will be able to address all of them. So, I know, some people may want to know, does StreamYard work on phones?
Yes, although I recommend if you're the host of the StreamYard that you use a desktop computer because it just gives you more real estate. So it gives you more, it's easier to see everything. You know, sometimes when you're on your phone, it's kind of hard to see things, but you can have a guest come in through the phone, for instance. Yeah,
I've had many guests come in and go on, use their cell phone or their iPad instead of a laptop or a desktop, and it's worked out fine. But yeah, I agree. For me, using the desktop, and I don't really need special equipment. I do have some because you, as one of your services, you suggest equipment that's best, right? But I could use, potentially I could use my built-in camera. Do you want to talk about how you help people as far as the equipment goes?
Sure. A lot of times when people are first getting started, they ask, do I need any special equipment? And the answer is no. What your computer comes with is perfectly fine. What your computer comes with plus StreamYard will work just fine for these broadcasts. But oftentimes as people do more and more episodes, they want their episodes to have a more professional feel. So you can use an external camera, an external microphone, and plug these things into your computer so that you have a more and more professional feel. And that's one of the services that I offer, is to evaluate your studio and to ask you, do you feel comfortable in your studio? Do you feel like your studio reflects the brand that you want to put forth? How do you feel about your microphone, your camera, your lighting, et cetera, et cetera? So we go through all of those things to make sure that the studio feels really good to you and that you look your best using the studio that you have.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to have, to take advantage of, because it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially if you want to make purchases and you have a certain budget and so forth, or you don't want to make purchases and you want to make do with what you have, because you can do something without buying extra equipment, but still you help me tweak my lighting and my background, and you could do green screen, or you could do a regular background like I have. And there are just so many things that you offer to help people with that, which is really great. Here's another question. Can people watch on StreamYard?
The people that are watching will not be using StreamYard or know the name StreamYard at all. They'll be watching wherever they would normally watch, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or all these platforms that we've mentioned. So to them, it will look like you're streaming live on Facebook, for instance, and so that they can just log into their Facebook and watch you there. So you're not going to be watching in StreamYard. StreamYard is just the studio, the virtual studio that you're using to produce this content.
Yeah. So when I promote something that I want people to watch, I will get the link from Facebook or from YouTube and when I do it live, so you could do it with a recorded version also. And then I just present that on whatever social media platforms that I like to promote with. Okay. Oh, so now you can see that I have these things which are called overlays. And I have some graphics here. So how do I make overlays and other types of graphics? You help me with them, so I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
Yeah, it was almost like a Christmas present because it was around December that this happened. But you can create what we call overlays, which is just this, this pink and green colorful branding to go around the different camera views, because without that, it would just be you and me side by side on a blank screen, which is just fine. Or it could look like
pretty
this.
Much like this, right? We wouldn't have the overlay.
The branding, exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's called an overlay, and you can get somebody to create them. Like I know how to create them, or you can create them yourself on something as easy as Canva. You're just going to want to use the correct screen size and then kind of be aware of where everything is, and you can kind of play around with it and export it multiple times and import it multiple times until you get the correct sizing. But you can make it look pretty much like whatever you want it to. I would go to canva.com if you're going to do it yourself, or if you want a professional to do it, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Well, there are some other features about StreamYard that I really like. And I think that maybe we can talk about how a lot of people are familiar with Zoom, and people say, well, I just use Zoom. Why shouldn't I just use Zoom? Maybe you could kind of talk about why StreamYard might be a better fit.
Well, I'm really glad that you feel comfortable with Zoom, and you definitely can use Zoom. There's no problem using Zoom. The advantage of StreamYard is that you don't have to upload the same video to multiple platforms. You can just use this video once, and then it goes out to all of these platforms at the same time, whenever it is that you want, and you can schedule it to be a certain time. So say Amy and I recorded this on a Tuesday, but we want it to go out on a Wednesday at 8 a.m. we can schedule that. We can take the video, upload it, and say, okay, Wednesday at 8 a.m., please send it to Facebook and to YouTube and to this place and to that place. You could do it to Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm saying the same platforms over and over, but you'll get an idea of all of the platforms that you can do. So that is an advantage of using StreamYard over Zoom. And the other thing that I would say is that a lot of us didn't feel comfortable using Zoom until fairly recently. So know that even though there's a little bit of a learning curve to use StreamYard, once you've done it a few times, you'll feel comfortable enough to realize that StreamYard allows you to play videos and do branding and have a guest show up without having to download anything. There's just a lot of different things that StreamYard offers that Zoom doesn't offer. But that being said, Zoom is a perfectly good way to share your message if that's what you feel comfortable with. But I would encourage you to give StreamYard a try for a couple months and see if your brain can learn to use StreamYard, because I bet that it can, and it'll give you so much more availability and options for the professionalism of your stream.
Yes, and I'm really enjoying a lot of the features. Sometimes I do a recipe demo, and sometimes I use a Vitamix, and the Vitamix is really noisy. And so what happens, I've been guests on people's podcasts as well, where I'll do a recipe demo with the Vitamix, and oftentimes they use Zoom, which, like you said, that's a fine platform to use. But what happens on Zoom with the audio is different than what happens on Zoom, on StreamYard with the audio, when someone is doing something like using a noisy Vitamix or something. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I know from having engineered a lot of your past episodes that you prefer to mute the noise of the Vitamix, which I think is very courteous to your guests. So if we have one of these amazing cooks on the episode and they choose to use the Vitamix, after they've dumped everything in the Vitamix and they tell the audience what it is, we can have the option as the engineer to mute the audio for just that small portion of time when the Vitamix is getting really, really loud. And then we can quickly unmute and have the guest continue to talk about the recipe and what they were saying. This way, the audience doesn't get that loud, jarring noise of the Vitamix.
Which I love. And also, because with Zoom, you don't have the control over the audio as you do with the StreamYard, right? And also, it seems, I haven't used Zoom too many times, but it seems like Zoom kind of is an automatic audio and video kind of feel, whereas whoever is talking kind of comes on camera. Or did you want to talk about that?
Sure. With Zoom, there's greater functionality. If you check the right boxes before you start your Zoom, you can have a lot of control over audio and video. But for most of us that are just normal Zoom users, there's stuff that is automatic in Zoom, that it automatically shows somebody, or it automatically mutes some background noise, or it does a lot of automatic things trying to help you. But you have so much more control in StreamYard. I think it's just a little bit more intuitive to use those functionalities of putting somebody on screen, taking somebody off screen, muting them, unmuting them. You have that kind of functionality. Like Amy just put me full screen because she pressed a button. And when she presses a button again, she can put us both side by side. And it's just very easy once you learn how to use it. So you could even have, 5 other people here, and we could all be on camera, off camera, all of those different things you have more granular control over. On Zoom, if you have 6 people, you either have 6 people or you have 1 person. On StreamYard, you can choose who shows up on camera, and you can really get into the weeds of all of the customizable control that you have on this platform.
Yeah, that's something that I really enjoyed, that feature, because there have been times when I've had more than one guest on, and I like to sometimes show them in what they call a solo layout or side by side. And sometimes there's more windows, so there's more of us showing up. And now that we're kind of talking about these different functions, there are a lot of functions we're not going to have enough time to talk about. And you know so much about StreamYard that if somebody really wanted to learn about it, you could help them. So, but another thing that I do enjoy about StreamYard is that if I want, sometimes I have a guest that has a PowerPoint presentation and they want to share that with us. So that is something that we're able to do. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, let's congratulate Amy on her 290 plus episodes of Be Green with Amy. That takes commitment. Nice job. Very nice.
So,
But this is an example of showing an image, and you could also show a PowerPoint in this way so that you have the speakers next to the PowerPoint, but you also have most of the screen real estate showing the PowerPoint. And there are at least 6 different views that you can use. You can choose to have your guests side by side, or have just one guest, or have guests with a PowerPoint, 2 of them, or one guest with a PowerPoint. There's so many different options, but this is really helpful. I've engineered episodes of yours, Amy, where a doctor is talking about a very complicated process that those of us that didn't go to medical school would just go completely over our heads. But because they have a PowerPoint next to them, you can kind of understand what they're talking about. And so that's a very nice functionality that StreamYard has.
yes, I really like that a lot. And in the beginning, we did my countdown, which I'll just show it really quick again.
3, 2, and we're live with Be Green with Amy.
So boy, was that fun. So we're able to put in different, you want to talk about that? What we can do? Videos
There's
and
different
things?
branding options. So you can play a video like this. And a lot of times people that go live tend to have that countdown that Amy has for her show to give both the guests and the host some time to take a breath, drink some water, and to build anticipation in the audience that it's coming. So as you're on Facebook and you're scrolling, you might see Be Green with Amy pop up, and you would see, oh, there's 20 seconds until the show is about to start. Maybe I'm going to stay on this and wait 20 seconds so that I can watch the show. So it kind of builds anticipation. But there's videos, there's images, there's these little buttons that have people's names. There's all sorts of branding options that StreamYard provides. So you could upload a video or an image beforehand so that you can play a video or show an image during the show.
Yeah. And then I'm also able to, during the show, I might post something from a guest, their contact information, their Instagram and things, or what they have to offer. Like I had this 5 free recipes that I offer. If you type in begreenwithamy.com/join and you get 5 free recipes. But typically I'll do that when I have a guest on and talk about where they can be reached and so forth. And that's been really great to have as well. And there's just so many things that I really want to thank you about introducing me to this, because I really learned so much as far as that goes. And so go ahead.
Oh, when we think about a pod and when we think about use cases for a pod, I think that, you live in Florida, and in Florida, sometimes people are in town because the weather's really nice, and sometimes they're out of town because the weather's not really nice and they would rather be in Ohio or wherever their other homes are. But the great thing about this is that you can use StreamYard to stream to a Facebook group where you have your pod, or to stream to wherever it is that you have your pod online, so that you can continue to keep people engaged in the pod, even if they have to miss a meeting, or even if they want to show this to their cousin that lives somewhere else and you want to talk to them about them finding a pod where they are. It's just a good marketing material and way to keep your audience connected, even if they aren't in the physical room with you. And I know you, Amy, have even had you've even streamed to YouTube your particular pod, and people from all over the world really have been able to be part of your pod because of that presence on YouTube that you've had.
Yeah, I think especially there are certain times when people may not feel comfortable meeting in person, and this has really been a great help to me to get people that have not been able to meet in person, but also to reach out internationally. I have people from all over the world that watch the broadcast, and so these are people I would never have gotten to be a part of my pod had I not done this social media and live stream. So I think I have another question for you, and you've been so great, Rebecca. You have so much information for us, and I really appreciate that. Now, some people, we were talking about how maybe they've never done a podcast, or maybe they don't want to be visual. Maybe they just want to do an audio. So the next question would be, can I make an audio only recording for a podcast?
So the way that the recordings work is that it records video and audio. But what you could do is you could do a pre-recording. You could record video and audio, but then you could download just the audio and you could send out just the audio. And there are other tools, like my favorite one is Descript, that you can use to make subtitles from your audio. There's lots of different things that you could do, but I think that you, Amy, take the audio and then put it into some of these podcasting softwares so that you can have a podcast that you've created just from the audio of this recording.
Yes, I actually do. I have, my podcasts are available on Apple and Google, all over. And what I do is, after I'm finished recording this session, whether it's a live session or I'm just recording it, I'm not promoting it live, then when I click on end broadcast, which is on my screen, then it'll say to me, do you want to download what you did? And I can download the MP3, which is the audio, and or the MP4, which is the video. So if I don't want to do that, I could even just not even have myself on camera and just do the audio without even putting myself on camera. Is that right?
That's true. You can do something like this where it's just the logo and some audio image to show that there's an audio going on. So no, you don't even have to be on camera, but there is a visual recording that you can choose to use or to not use. And a lot of times people that have podcasts choose to use that audio on even YouTube. So we could both have our cameras off like this and we could be talking and that part could go on YouTube. So you don't have to be on camera. There is an audio option, but you do have to record the visual option, whether or not you choose to use it.
Right. And StreamYard will actually has a certain amount of storage for your recordings. And then if you like me with all episodes, you have to be very careful because you have to make sure that you don't exceed your storage. So you have to you would have to buy more storage, or you could just make sure that you downloaded them and then delete them so that you have more room. And I just every time after I'm done with a broadcast, I download the audio and the video onto my computer, and then I can do what I want. But I don't have to worry about, because I'm doing live, I don't have to worry about putting it up on YouTube and Facebook and so forth, because it's already there because I did it live. But I like to download them from my records, and I also like to share them with my guests, and I also like to have, like we were talking about, having the access to the audio so that I can just put that up on to a podcast, because otherwise I would have to take the video and then dissect the audio out of it, and that's not fun. I wouldn't even know what to do. I'd have to ask you how to do it. Yeah, so that's a great thing to have too. Okay, so here's another good question. Can I have a meeting with someone without recording, like with Zoom or FaceTime?
Yes, you can. But it won't go out anywhere. So before all of the broadcasts, we have an opportunity to talk and to say hi and to, talk about the weather or whatever, and make sure that all of our equipment is functioning well, and then we press record and then we start recording. So yes, you can even just meet with somebody using StreamYard, but really the purpose of StreamYard is to push a recording out to multiple platforms at the same time. That's the real reason to use StreamYard. But yeah, you could even use it for a Zoom call or something like that. Although I don't know many people that are using it that way. You definitely could use it that way.
Yeah, I do like that feature. And one of the things when you were showing me how to use StreamYard and helping me in the beginning when I was starting out with my presentations, you were the engineer and you used to come on. So there would be 3 boxes here instead of 2. And then we would encourage the guest to come on maybe 15 minutes prior to the broadcast. And then we would be like this, but we wouldn't be live. We wouldn't be recording or anything. and then talk about what you would do for the guest.
Yeah, as part of being an engineer, what I would do is make sure that the guest looked really great. So we would adjust their camera angle, we would adjust their microphone, we would open a window, turn on some lighting to make sure that they looked really great. And also, one of my things that I like to do is make sure that everybody's head sizes are about the same height and about the same size. Because if I come closer to you or if I come farther away from you, I'll be different sizes. So that's something that I would like to do is I would have those 15 minutes beforehand to kind of adjust everything and make sure that everything was looking great and sounding great. And then during the actual broadcast, I would not put myself on camera, and everybody that was supposed to be on the show would be on camera so that I could be clicking the buttons and doing all the things behind the scenes, but you wouldn't see my face for the actual recording. It would be a little bit like this, or there might be two guests here, but I would be behind the scenes doing all of the clicking. So to enable a really great show to happen so that neither of those people would have to think about, okay, what comes next? What do I have to click? When do I stop the recording? That type of stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little game because this is something that I always do on my broadcast. So I just wanted to show this is another feature that you can have as far as doing this kind of broadcast. You can do something like this.
It's time for True or False on Be Green with Amy Live. Answer true or false to Amy's questions in the comments below, and Amy will ask our guest for the expert answer.
So that's something I like to do to add to my show. And so true or false question for you. Do I have to do it alone? If I needed help doing this StreamYard, could I get some help? And if so, where can I find someone to help me set up or produce my entire show or just part of it?
Yeah, well, I do this professionally, and I've been doing it since the beginning of the pandemic, so however many years it's been now. I've been helping people with their shows, so if you'd like, you can go to my website, pkasolves.com, and you can contact me. I can get you started with the first few episodes. You definitely don't have to do it alone, although you can if you feel comfortable. But if you don't feel comfortable, or if you need a tutorial on the technology, I am here to help.
Oh, well, and you are a great help because you just, and kind of like the doctors that I interview on my show, they're always up with the latest research, and you're always up with the latest technology, and you keep telling me about new things that are coming out and new ways that I could improve my brand or my show, and I'm always so grateful for all of your help.
Thanks. You're a pleasure to work with, and yeah, there's new technology that's coming out all the time, so that's part of my profession, is to just stay up to date on what's possible with StreamYard and with other technology that you can incorporate into StreamYard so that you can have a really professional broadcast and you can tell the world what it is that you have to say.
Well, I really encourage all of you that are watching right now, if you have any questions, let us know and we'll try to answer them. But I do encourage you to get your pod online or get yourself online, whether it's live or recorded or just an audio podcast. And if you're really thinking about doing it, I think StreamYard is great, but you can do Zoom, and that's okay too. This is just another option that you have. And I really wanted to thank you again, Rebecca, for coming here today and telling us about StreamYard. There's so much more to learn and know. And if anybody wanted to know that, they could just get in touch with you on your website. Is that right?
Yes, you can book a meeting on my calendar right from the website. So that's a really good place to go, pkasolves.com.
Oh, excellent. And what I like to do at the end of my show with my guests, and this is actually, I have to tell everybody that Rebecca came up with my tagline. So if you're familiar with it, it's actually Rebecca who made it up. And I love to do it with all the guests on my show. And so what better time to be doing this now with you, Rebecca? Would you like to do it with me?
Let's do it.
Okay. So until I see you again, remember, be strong, be well, and be green. Bye, everyone. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you learned something from it. It was a lot of fun to do that with Rebecca, my daughter, and she's been a lot of help And I think that she shared a lot of really great information. And if you have any questions about being a host, because Maya's here with me, so she's also a host. So you can ask either one of us that. And you can ask us about how to be a podcast guest. There's just so many questions that you may have, and please feel free to put them in the chat, and we would be happy to answer that. Oh, thank you, Beth. That said, I ended with panache. That was from our presentation, right?
We've got 1 minute.
Great presentation, Amy.
Thanks.
Very nice.
You were awesome too.
I don't see any questions, but a lot of people said good things. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wonderful job, Amy. I said that, but other people said it too about just how long, how many podcasts you now have.
I would love to hear if anybody from this event has been inspired to maybe either be a guest on a podcast, or to do a podcast, or to do even just a Zoom meeting if they've never hosted one. So if anybody wants to put in the chat whether they've been inspired by that. Oh, Susan said, yes, more inspired for sure. See that, Maya?
Yeah. I mean, it's the virtual world is not going to go away. I think we learned a lot in the past 2 years how important it is to have these tools under our belt. And but we've all connected now with other people across the world in different areas. So we hope that talking about StreamYard and podcasting and creating online events and all that has helped you. Should we turn it over to Bill? I don't see. Stephanie says that she's inspired to be a guest, scared but inspired. That's all of us. Even I get nervous when I'm a guest.
Yeah, but sometimes nervous feels good though. And remember, there's supporting documents in that Trello. So go click on the Trello and you can find the PDFs that Maya created and I did and all of us contributed so that there's more information for you.
Yeah. And I want to kind of just throw a comment in there real quick about how, we all kind of lost touch, at least I feel, with our podcast, with our pod members. And being part of this pod advisory committee has started that fire within me again, because I feel like the few members that are part of it, there are only 9 members in PAC. I feel like they are a pod. And so it starts with us encouraging one another to outreach and continue to offer support. And now you guys are part of it too. And I hope that we can continue to stay connected this way and to network with one another. I don't know if we're going to have time, Beth, for any networking after this, but I've said
we've got
to stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got that planned in, and we're just going to turn it over to Bill right now. But you guys stay. This was the plan anyway. The 4 of us are here, and Bill's going to do a few announcements. I'll do a closing, and then we'll stay around for networking. Yeah.